All right, haves and have-not fans. First of all, it was great to do a live stream last night. Even greater the fact that, yes, my Wi-Fi at home is sufficient enough to do live streams. And also, when I'm in my room, door closed, and talking in a generally normal voice, I don't disturb anybody else. So, yeah, you might get live streams again. Sorry about that. It was a whim. It was on a whim when I decided to. This episode was so bland that, let me put it this way. My mom fell asleep 3 times, and I had to wake her up because she was that bored. And I'm like, what I miss? I mean, like, Mom, you ain't miss anything. They're just saying the same thing. And I remember when I used to take sometimes 1.5, 2.5 pages of notes, and it's just gotten to the point where I'm just making little bullet points that barely take up half of a page because there really isn't much to talk about. And I'm sorry that I don't have that exhilarating energy that most people know me for when I do these videos. And you know, I see the comments of, well, why don't you write it, Tyler, if you don't think you can do better? Shut up. First of all, I've been doing this for years, and you must be new to the channel, but I don't just sit up here and rant. I talk about the episodes, theories, discussions, as well as how things can be better. I just feel like because I've accepted the fact that this show is just going to end, there are just so... I hate to say this because you all know how Amanda, Melissa, those are my boos. I feel like I'm so disinterested in what's going on at this point. Even if they showed up, I probably would not care. Because I feel like that's been my theme while watching these episodes. Because we have 2 episodes left. We only have 2 episodes left and it's over. There are so many things going on that need to be resolved, yet we're spending time over at this place and that place, that I'm just sitting here like, what does it even matter? When Candace told Charles I'm pregnant, I'm like, okay. I mean, this is the final 8 episodes, and this was episode 6. I mean, it took you this long to even bring up the pregnancy. I'm just sitting here like, what the hell's going on? But my sarcasm aside, I'll talk about this episode in a nutshell. I only have like maybe 6 bullet points, but I feel like I'm going to spend more time talking about the inconsistencies. This episode was full of so many inconsistencies that I was going to do a separate video on it, but I'm like, I'll just talk about it in the review because my review is going to be pretty damn short. And shout out to Ashley Miller. I didn't watch the full review, but I watched part of it this morning. I think she almost had like a 30-minute review. I'm just sitting here like, damn, you a good one. You better than me, because I know my review last week was only like 16 some minutes. Like, you all know when it comes to haves and the have-nots, I go down, but there isn't much to talk about. So all that's to say, before moving forward, hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Hit the bell icon and select all. That way you don't miss out when I post content. Hit subscribe and follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. So we spend about maybe 7 minutes or so between Benny and Rihanna at her, is it her house or apartment? I think it's her house. But in any case, you know, he comes in. He just wants to comfort her because she's obviously upset about everything that's been going on regarding Sandy, and then of course the fight in the restaurant. And you know, they have a glass of wine or whatever, and Benny invites her over just to be held, and then she's like, I'm not going to have sex with you. And then all of a sudden she's on top of him, kissing, and then unbuttoning his shirt, taking off his blazer. I was thinking the whole time, it's like, hey, this is a $1,200 suit. I was waiting for Benny to say that, but you know, he takes the blazer off, and I don't know if this was to pad out time, because, you know, after speaking with so many of these actors over the years, you know, I understand like sometimes there are pauses between dialogue. You know, there are just staring content. There are just moments to kind of expand the scene for the episode to reach a certain runtime. But I was looking at how Rihanna was unbuttoning Benny's shirt, and I was thinking, like, is it being slow on purpose, or does she not know how to unbutton his shirt? I don't really know. Is this seduction? But in any case, you know, she unbuttons his shirt and starts kissing his chest and then goes down on him. And it's like, okay, so we just wasted 7 minutes of nothing. I mean, there was an inconsistency here, but like I said, I'm just going to talk about these episode beats, and then I'll talk about the inconsistencies, because they do have a brief conversation, but it isn't anything we don't already know, except for one major retcon involving her mother. So after they have sex, all of a sudden, she's just an entirely different person. I shouldn't have done that. Your credit is terrible. And I'm like, Benny, well, damn. I mean, wait, you don't have anything, do you? It's like, Rihanna, you're the one who came on to him, and now you're asking all these questions like, your credit sucks, do you have any STDs or whatever? And then he goes on about how, I want something to eat. Like, I've never had sex, but apparently after sex, people are either tired or they're hungry. And I'm like, well, didn't y'all have those steak dinners? But in any case, it's like, apparently she, quote unquote, maybe can't cook. So Benny's like, I'll fix something, I'll fix a burger. And then it's like round 2. Oh, we ain't doing this again. Oh, yes, we will. And, you know, they just talk about the whole, oh, I'm not worried about Sandy, yada, yada, yada. And I'm sorry that I'm haphazardly going through this review, but there really isn't anything of substance to talk about. He gets up and starts cooking. So, going over to David's house, apparently he did a background check on Tanner. And I have to say that he's being written to be far more competent than he was when he was working for Jim. Because, you know, David was like, did you run the plates? Sure did. Tanner apparently is his middle name, and that's Justin's brother. And from there, you know, Jim comes over, and he's a bit sour because he can't just walk on in there like he owns the place, but he needs to be announced. And I love the little nod to continuity, because Leo and Mac, right? They were the two guys assigned to watch Wyatt until he escaped by basically tying a bunch of bed sheets and escaping from Rapunzel's tower, so to speak, and then they got fired as a result of that. But I just love how Leo's like, okay, yeah, I'll pin you to the ground if you go into the house one more time, if you try to go up those steps. So he backs off, and, you know, he gets announced, and basically Jim comes in and talks about the fact that he needs 100K because he doesn't really have a choice in its manner. He doesn't want to beg to Hannah for money, not to mention Hannah would not give him the money anyway. And, you know, I guess 50,000 for Celine and 50,000 for himself because he has no money. And, you know, I'll pay you back. And I'm thinking, Jim, how are you going to pay David back when you literally have no money? And then he brings up the Malone situation of how Mama Rose has retired. Again, I'll talk about that in the inconsistency section. And the fact that Benny took over. And with the protection seemingly lifted, you could pay Vinny probably $100,000 and he'll take care of Candace for you. So, you know, he's telling David, don't get lawyers involved or accountants, just see if you can give me the money as soon as possible. So from there, we go over to poor Hannah, who is just running from point A to point B for Catherine. That's literally been her thing. It feels like last season, or the first half of season 8, it was David who was pretty much Jim's go for this, go for that. And that's basically been Hannah. And it's no shade towards Hannah as a character, but her entire thing, this entire batch of episodes, has been running this place, that place, checking on this person, yada yada, for Catherine. That's literally all it's been. But, you know, she's about to go to the loft, and then, you know, she asked Hannah to call Jim. That way they'll be on a 3-way. Hannah said nothing. Catherine's like, Jim, go over there right now. Wait, you mean the loft that should have been taken off the market? I mean, that you took off the market that should have been sold? And basically, it's just a useless exchange back and forth. The only good thing about it is when Jim pulls a Celine on Catherine and asks, oh, is that your girlfriend Hannah? What, you give her more money? What, did you give her the loft too? And basically, you know, they get off the phone without Hannah saying anything. I was literally waiting for Hannah to pop in at any moment, but that never happened. We do get a moment too where I believe that Jeffrey and David are having just a quick chat in regards to Tanner. Do you want to tell me who nobody was who came up here? And, you know, yeah, that was Justin's brother. He invited me to the funeral and everything because he said he cared about me and he wanted me to go. And David's like, the one who burned himself alive. And it's just like, Jeffrey, why are you even entertaining this idea? I mean, thankfully he says, you know what, I'm not going, I feel something's off. And just because David said, well, that's a good idea. What do you mean? You shouldn't trust him. Yeah, okay, I don't. I feel like just because David said something, Jeffrey's going to bring his dumb ass over to that funeral or whatever and get killed. Because even though he said he wasn't going to go, I feel like in a way he was, but I was like, okay, it sounds like he's definitely not going to go. But because his father said something about it, I mean, it's not the equivalent of, you know, like those memes where, you know, a kid's like, you know what, I want to do the dishes. But then it's like, you know, or let's say you're about to do something and then your parent comes around and says, you need to do this. And then you decide not to do it. It's like, you know what? I want to wash the dishes. And then when your parents say you ought to wash the dishes, you don't feel like doing it. But in Jeffrey's case, this is a more serious manner because, you know, you're literally being invited to the funeral of the man who tried to kill himself along with you. And thankfully, you seemingly have the sense to not go. But then because your dad says that's a good idea, then all of a sudden it's like Jeffrey's entertaining the idea of going. And I could not care less. So we go over to the loft and Rocky's there. We get a Rocky cameo. And he's basically telling Broderick to get the hell out of there. But Broderick, I got a taste of a good life. You know what? I'm not going. I want to, you know, file a complaint and see if I can use squatter rights in order to stay here. And Rocky speaking for the audience because, bro, this makes no freaking sense. You're messing with the wrong people. And it seems to me like Broderick forgot the threat that Jim made on his life, but he's going to try to fight the criers in order to keep that loft. What the hell? So Broderick's like, you know what? Hey, I'm about to get up out of here before they come back. You do you. I'm gone. So he's like, yeah, I want to leave before they come knocking on the door. Ain't nobody going to come knock on the door. Uh-oh, it's Hannah. So Rocky leaves and, you know, Hannah's like, wait, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be gone. And Broderick's like, I ain't going nowhere. But then Jim rolls up and then it's like, what the hell is going on here? Because remember, Jim didn't know Hannah was going to come. So Hannah's like, you know what? I'll just leave you two to it because Wyatt isn't there. So there's no need of me to be here. So Jim is like, first of all, what are you doing here? Broderick. Because I'm thinking to myself, did Jim forget who Broderick was? The guy that he was literally holding by the balls in the hotel, threatening him if he ever came at his wife again. But Broderick tries to say, oh, I was here cleaning, but it's like, then why is your luggage here? And Jim just kicks him out because Wyatt's not there. And, you know, Jim notices the Coke tray on the table, and then he's like, damn it. So then we spend a useless 15 minutes with Charles and Landon. Basically, you know, Landon is calling Candace about an interview setup that they have, but Candace doesn't want to do it. And, you know, Landon's like, this is a great way to change the narrative on you. You need to be careful with that crier money. Move it to a separate account. I've already done that. Oh, and I guess the biggest takeaway from this conversation is the fact that Landon makes it clear that we're always watching you. I mean, even if you go to another hotel, which you definitely should, we're going to keep an eye on you. And we're basically going to track you anywhere you go. And Charles, you know, is excited because they're finally moving to DC, you know, basically the next step. And Conley is talking with Charles again about his own agenda. And, you know, Landon's suspicious of it. So he goes to speak with Oliver about it. Well, technically they don't, because Oliver just asks, hey, is Senator Conley there? Yeah, I'm like, what is it? I just feel like he has an agenda. And then for the first time, I felt bad for Oliver because he did nothing to warrant Landon jumping on his case like that, because all he said was just he has a feeling Conley has an agenda, and then Landon started bitching at him. Usually it's Oliver who starts the you know, the childlike bickering, but it was Landon. I mean, Landon was the one who asked Oliver what's on your mind. Oliver didn't come to you with that information, so it was really out of place. And I know some people are like, wait, why is Conley acting the way he is? He usually doesn't act this way. But I'm like, we only got 2 episodes left, so his quote-unquote agenda needed to be exposed. Basically, you know, Landon, you know, ran the name of the guy who was trying to be pushed to Charles's staff. And it's basically somebody with like this like oil pipeline or something like that that would go across private land, including Conley. So by allowing this to go through, this would be a major windfall for the senator. And the biggest takeaway here is Charles learning that, hey, the higher you go up, the more people are going to try to use you because of what you can do for them, not what they can do for you. That was just a lesson there. And then Candace actually calls back, and Charles takes the phone and gets on there, and Candace is still whining about the whole, well, the last time I saw you was when I was being thrown in the trunk of a car. Again, inconsistent, and I will talk about that in just a moment. So she brings up the revelation that we'll find out in 7 months. 7 months? I'm pregnant. What? So Charles went from I miss you, I want to hold you, I need you back, to being speechless. Again, inconsistency, and I'll talk about that momentarily. So we go over to the Harrington house, and Jeffrey's chilling on the couch. Madison comes in, explains what happened at the hospital, from piss being thrown on him to Wyatt breaking loose, stripping him down in the scrubs to steal them so he can leave after taking some dangerous / deadly drugs. And the fact that, Jeffrey goes upstairs to tell his dad. Leo lets Madison know that, hey, there's a Wyatt Cryer there outside, and then Madison's like, hey, that's a prisoner. If we bring him in, can you detain him? Oh, I sure can. So when he comes in there, Wyatt tries to start some crap, but then Leo puts him down. And then we get to the final scene of Candace taking a nap, and Oscar is knocking on the door saying, don't make me break in the door. And he comes in, and it's like, whoa, you thought I was dead. I ain't dead. I'm not here to kill you either. I saw you die. You fell from the 30th floor. I'm not dead. You can never kill me. And that sounded very eerily like what Veronica says in the preview for the next episode. But the biggest takeaway was the cliffhanger when Oscar said, we're all here to destroy you. So that was my episode review in a nutshell. But I really want to talk about the inconsistencies, because those were the biggest takeaways for me. There were damn near half a dozen, but here are like the top 5. Okay, so number 1, at the beginning of the episode, Rihanna was telling Benny about how, yeah, my mom's in a home and, I could barely afford to keep her there. And I'm like, first of all, didn't you tell Benny at your job that your mom died of a car accident, which sounded suspiciously like something I'm alone could arrange to happen? So your mother is all of a sudden alive? Number 2, Candace kept going on and on about how the last time I saw you, Charles, was when I was being shoved into the trunk of a car. Wait, didn't Charles show up like several episodes ago in a disguise, basically regular street clothes, in order to visit you in the hotel room, and you literally you wanted nothing to do with him? So are we just going to forget that episode even happened? Number 3, Candace tells Charles that you're the only man I've been with unprotected. False. Warlock forced himself on Candace multiple times, and I know that the time frame is kind of wonky because Candace says she's been pregnant for about 2 months now, but I fail to believe that this is Charles's baby. I've been saying this for well over a year, and people who are just so dead set on Charles and Candace getting back together fail to realize that Candace has been with a few men several times. I never believed it was Jim Cryer's baby. No, she faked it being Jim's back in like season 1, but that wasn't the case. She wasn't pregnant. But Warlock forced himself. Other people are like, well, it was from behind when they were at the fence. But no, Warlock popped up at Candace's house multiple times wanting sex on the spot. So it is very possible Warlock could be the father of that child. Not to mention her and Oscar had sex several times as well. Undetermined if it was protected or not. I like to think in my headcanon that the one time they had sex right before she drugged him and then stole the information off his computer to take Wyatt's inheritance was unprotected sex, and that could be when she got knocked up without knowing it, leading to his death, which would be very creepy to have the man who killed your son being the father of your child, Warlock, or the son of the man you killed being Oscar. That would be very eerie. But then you could argue that since Warlock was forcing himself / raping Candace, it could be a parallel to how Derek raped Hannah and then Candace was born. But I just can't believe it was Charles. So her saying he was the only person she's been with unprotected, I don't buy that. Number 4, David telling Jim that Mama Rose retired due to quote-unquote health issues and moved to Florida about a month ago. Fam, she was just in jail with Catherine not too long ago, and then inexplicably after leaving the jail, she told Vinny, I'm retiring and I'm handing you the keys to be the Don. That only happened a few episodes ago. How the hell was that a month? I'm so confused by that. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to bring up is the fact that, well, I've already talked about it before, but the Landon thing, inconsistent writing, it's like, Landon was the one that asked Oliver his thoughts on Conley, and then he's like, don't come to me again unless you have any proof. You know what? The only reason I'm keeping your ass around is because you have potential. And then Oliver's like, well, damn. I was like, well, sheesh, you're the one who asked me. So I feel like I'm just not invested anymore. It's just the fact that because there were so many reshoots and the fact that season 7 was supposed to be the final season, that could explain the reason that so many things seem out of order, inconsistent. I mean, don't even get me started on the whole whether or not Sandy is Mitch's cousin or brother, because they flip-flop between that so many times. And then when Madison was saying that, you know what, the cops are looking for him everywhere, that's a damn lie. If the cops were looking for Wyatt, they would have had some sort of police report out. Hell, they probably would have called Jim by now. No. So Trespassing definitely trespassed on my time last night. And I know the Candace being pregnant revelation is something people wanted to know about for a while, but the fact that they just shoehorned it in so damn close to the end of the series, I don't really care. And I mean, the Oscar thing about "We're All Here to Destroy You" has me thinking, and a lot of fans, that maybe other people from the past who have died will show up and haunt Candace, which would be hella thrilling. But other than that, this episode was meh. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. If you disagree, I can understand why. I'm being honest as opposed to overly harsh or overly, I guess you could say forgiving. It's just that the series is coming to a close, and it just feels like nobody even gives a damn. It just feels like, oh yeah, we're just doing these last couple episodes and that's it. So yeah, just let me know if you think I'm on the wrong side of the scoreboard, if it should be 8 or 7. It definitely was just a waste of time. So let's talk about it more in the comment section below. And if you want to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App.